Trustworthiness, but it's reflect the same thing, which is the quality of the instrument that we use. Okay, dia menunjukkan kualiti kaedah pengumpulan data, means of data collection that we use in our study. Okay, so this way reliability and validity ni, the term ni mostly been used in quanti. Okay, please keep in mind this term validity and reliability we use in quanti. In quali dia ada juga quality yang sama, the same thing, but according to the setting of qualitative, the term is trustworthiness. Okay, trustworthiness. Okay, so instrumentation. So instrumentation ni referring to any tools or means by which investigators attempt to measure variables or items of interest in the data collection process. Okay, this is similar when we reflect. If let's say when we want to measure the length, for example, we use ruler. Okay, we use ruler to measure length, for example. Okay, weight, we use the weighing machine, for example. So it's similar thing. So when we conduct the quantitative study, when we want to measure the variable, either the independent or dependent variable, we need to establish the tools that we are going to measure the variable. So the tools in this context referring to the instrument. Instrument ni kadang-kadang digunakan dalam lab pun ada, so dalam social science pun ada. So instrumentation ni banyak kaedah, banyak kaedah, not necessarily reflect the questionnaire or survey. Okay, so it's comprised scientific activities and technologies that are related to measurement. Anything that related to measurement yang melibatkan pengukuran. Okay, related to instrument design. So when we mention instrumentation, it involves the instrument design, how we design the instrument, either we adapt or we adopt. Okay, the selection of the instrument, how do we select the instrument? Based on for example, based on your literature review, from your searching, you figure out that there are a few instruments measuring job satisfaction. So which instrument or what criteria that you include to select a certain instrument, and then how you construct. Okay, assessment, how do you assess the instrument, conditions under which the designated instruments are administered. Okay, how do you administer the instrument? Okay, in terms of the data collection, and then the instrument is the device used by investigators for collecting data. So samalah yang kat atas tadi. So investigator or researcher need to describe thoroughly the instrument used to measure the DV, okay, your dependent variable, the outcomes or the effect of intervention. So when we conduct the quantitative study, make sure that if you have in your study, you have 3 independent variable and 1 dependent variable. So in total, okay, you should have 4 instruments. Okay, you should have 4 instruments measuring each variables. Okay, sebab last time, sebab apa saya highlight macam ni, sebab last time, okay, when I supervise my student, some of the students said that dia nak measure they want to measure 4 different variable, but the instruments only 1. Rasa nak menangis. Okay, so make sure be clear, every variable they should come with their own instrument or measurement. Okay, and then the instrumentation involve the procedure of establishing instrument validity and reliability, as well as minimizing measurement errors. Okay, so validity and reliability ni, when we talk about the instrument, it couldn't be separated from the validity and reliability. How we identify the quality of the instrument, it is based on validity and reliability of the instrument. Okay, so instrumentation. So we can use the questionnaire, either interviews, observations, tests, field notes, accounts, document, and personal construct or role play. So these are example of instrumentation. Okay, banyak. Okay, they're not necessarily questionnaire. And again, if you conduct the quantitative study, not necessarily your data collection be accomplished through questionnaire, not necessarily. Either questionnaire, interview, observation, it is only the means for data collection. But we fit in which one that we think suitable for the current study. Okay, faham questionnaire ni bukan design. Dia adalah kaedah pengumpulan data sahaja. Kuali ataupun kuanti boleh pakai mana-mana. Okay. Okay, what is measurement? So measurement is related to the assigning numbers, which is how we quantify to individuals in a systematic way as a means of representing properties of the individual. So measurement ni biasanya memang dalam kuanti. The words measurement ni in kuanti, because nothing we want to quantify in qualitative study. Okay?
Dr. Naomi,
Yes.
since questionnaire always tied to quantitative and also to analysis the data tied to statistical package, SPSS, and so on. But then how we want to measure the interview, the observation, the field notes for quantitative?
It is possible, it's possible. Okay, but when we, for example, when you come up with the open-ended, kalau open-ended, because interview ni there are a few types of interview, and sometimes even though the interview question you can transform into the open-ended questionnaire, for example. So either one possible, but it's going to be difficult or complex for the quantitative researcher when they need to come up with the numbering or themes or coding for each answer given by respondent. And then in terms of the analysis also, it will be limited lah. Okay, when you conduct a quantitative study but involve the interview, for example. So we are not interested in identifying the relationship, but probably we are more interested in figuring out or describing the situation in terms of frequency, percentage, how many, for example, my question involves what is your favorite food? So perhaps in my data, I interview some and then figure out among Malaysians, so what are their standard food? General food, for example, rice, fried rice, simple lah sikit, but it is still possible. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Tapi in terms of data presentation tu, they will be limited lah. For if let's say we use the interview or open-ended question, open-ended question in questionnaire for quantitative study. Tapi still possible. Okay. Okay, so numbers is used. Numbers can be assigned based on the properties to be measured utilizing various forms depending upon the type of scale to be constructed. Okay, so before we assign the numbers, we need to define, we need to know the attribute or the characteristic of the variable that we want to measure. Okay, so numbers can be assigned subject to subject in categories, forming nominal scales in rank, forming ordinal scale, or as continuous scores, forming either interval or ratio. So this one, I want to introduce you to 4 common characteristics of variable. Okay, there are 4 characteristics, or we call it as scale of measurement that define the characteristics of variable. Okay, so we have nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale of measurement. Nanti saya explain satu-satu. Okay, so there is one field area of study. The name is metrology, which is the area ni. It is concerned about measurement. Kalau let's say you all nak further your study related to metrology ni, related to how we measure the instrument ni, dia ada satu bidang nama dia metrology. Okay, so the precision or accuracy of the measurement used can lead to differing outcomes of research finding. Okay, and it could potentially limit the statistical analysis that could be performed on the data collected. So dua benda so instrument kita, how important for quantitative study the instrument ni becomes the heart, jantung for each quantitative study. If something wrong with your instrument, okay, the examiner may advise you to recollect your data. Something wrong with your instrument, either it involve the wording, involve the accuracy, the reliability or validity of your instrument, the examiner may advise you to recollect your data. recollect your data. For those who do master science and PhD, you can imagine that at least the result will be major correction or thesis submission, resubmission for master science and PhD. Biasanya masalah yang melibatkan resubmission, revival and redata collection ni biasanya adalah yang melibatkan instrument. Despite kalau biasanya salah dari segi statement of problem tu kita tak adalah sampai revival, at least major correction. Tapi once the examiner start to touch on your instrument, make sure jantung you all berdebar. So next one, level of measurement. So these are the four scale of measurement or 4 level of measurement. This one will indicate the characteristic for the variable that we want to measure in our study. For example, in our study we are interested to study about gender. So we need to know what are the criteria or what are the contribution of numbers in assigning gender. Contoh sebab when we talk about the variable in quantitative study, we directly reflect the system that we are going to use, which is IBM SPSS. So if you want to use IBM SPSS to analyze the data, bear in mind that the software only can capture, or the software only fluent to capture the information related to numbers only. IBM SPSS only can capture information on numbers only. It cannot read any wording information. So everything that you have, you must transform into numbers. Semua kena dalam bentuk nombor. So sekarang ni kita nak tahu apa peranan nombor dalam setiap coding atau sistem yang maklumat yang kita masukkan dalam IBM SPSS. So level of measurement has been introduced by Stanley Stevens in 1946. The Stevens wanted researcher to recognize that different varieties of measurement exist and that types of measurement fall into 4 proposed class. Dia nak kita senang nak ukur tu, kita kena tahu dulu karakteristik dia. So bila kita dah tahu karakteristik dia, senang untuk kita establish the instrument. So first kita ada nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. Kalau dalam bila you all attend statistik class nanti pun, insyaAllah Prof. Bahaman will introduce you again to these 4 scale of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. So these level are distinguished by the properties they include, and are hierarchical in the sense that a higher level of measurement includes the property of those lower in the hierarchy. Terbalik. So first kita proceed dengan nominal. So what is nominal? Nominal scale of measurement. So when we in nominal, the role of number in nominal variable, it serves only to distinguish between categories and do not have any real numerical meaning. For example, direct male. We use in our study, we are interested to study about gender. Then we want to insert the data in our IBM SPSS. So I do hope that we have similar understanding that there are only 2 category of gender, which is one male and female. Kita ada dua saja. Agreed
Kan ada lebih ke?
Kalau lebih tu itu yang isu yang very sensitive issue. Tapi there are some study they want to capture the the individual preference in their individual identification. Ada juga. Sometimes for international research they may locate others. Up to you. Tapi untuk kelas saya, I indicate that there are only two gender. So when defining the gender, so number, again macam saya kata, if let's say we enter male, we write male or female in IBM SPSS, the system couldn't capture the information for us. Tak boleh. It cannot calculate for us. So we need to transform into numbers. So numbers in this sense is only used for coding purpose. Code. Maksudnya kita kena transform the wording information into code. The code to reflect the number. So for example, in this case, we only have two genders, male and female. Okay, so we use 1 to represent male, 2 to represent female. Okay, so my question, is there any problem or is there any different if I change, okay, 1 to female, 2 to male? Is there any different? Other than the different in numbering, right? Any numbers that I use, either 1 or 2 to reflect a certain gender, it does not give any meaning because the number that I use here just for coding purpose, just to reflect the group. 1 to reflect group male, 2 to reflect group female. Or sometimes I can use 0. I can use 0 to represent male, 1 to represent female, because 1 doesn't mean that gender, that particular gender with higher value of higher coding, saying that it is superior compared to others. Tak ada maksud tu. Okay? Faham? Ya, Syaril? Ya.
They are not related to binary code macam computer
No,
coding 100.
01, no. That one kalau kita akan guna untuk if let's say for higher level, for advanced statistics, if you have your dependent variable is incategorical, itu possible tapi lain. Itu higher level statistik dalam kelas statistik perbahaman nanti attempt multivariate kalau ada masa. Tapi that one the code is for 6 ni maksudnya for PhD. Nanti sambung PhD balik. Okay. So dalam kes ni doesn't matter. You all nak guna 0 ke 1 ke 2 ke 3 ke, up to you. Okay, but remember the numbers only, we use the numbers only to represent the group. Okay. Okay, ni je dia punya explanation. Saya habis kat sini. Okay, so numbers distinguish the two categories of male and female but have no quantitative meaning. Tak ada, maksudnya dua tu tak bermaksud, dua female tu tak bermaksud female better than male. No. Okay, dia tak maksud tu. It is not appropriate to add, subtract or otherwise manipulate them numerically. So therefore, for example, when you run the analysis, you insert your data, okay, and then for this case, okay, you got your frequency, okay, you got the mean, you got the frequency, you got the mode, and then you got frequency, mean, mode. Okay, for example, after you run the IBM SPSS statistical analysis, the mean indicated that the mean value equals to 1.5. What does it mean? Okay, apa dia maksud dia? Faham tak soalan saya? Do you understand my question?
Faham, Doktor?
Okay, example saya ulang lagi sekali. For example, so because we already indicate in our data set, in our coding, we use 1 to reflect male, 2 to reflect female. 1 male, 2 female. So after you run the analysis, okay, so you the analysis will provide you with the frequency of male, frequency of female. And then later on, one of the result that will be included is mean, purata. Okay, if let's say the result of mean equals to 1.5, what does it mean? Saja tanya, 1.5.
Kunsa.
Apa dia?
Taklah.
Maksudnya when Syaril indicate kunsa, then he knows what the mean. What I mean. Meaning that
Tengah-tengah, Doktor.
Tengah-tengah. So meaning that please understood that as a researcher, please understand that as a researcher, do not report everything that that appear in your output. Be selective and know which value to be reported. For nominal, it is meaningless to report mean because the number we use here just to reflect the group. It does not give any meaning, any other meaning. That's why you cannot add, subtract, manipulate, and so on for the variable with nominal category. Faham Jangan tambah, jangan tolak, jangan report mean. Tiba-tiba ada purata. Mean for gender 1.5. Apa gender apa tu? 1.5.
Dia meaningless lah doktor.
Meaningless. So for nominal category of variable, make sure ada you know exactly which value to be reported. Frequency, yes, possible. Okay, percentage, yes, possible. Mode, possible, but not mean. Be careful. Okay, faham Be selective. Sebab bila kita masuk any information that you entered into IBM SPSS, when you run the analysis, dia akan keluarkan semuanya. Semua dia akan keluar. But it is the responsibility of a researcher to be selective. You need to know which values to be reported, which values shouldn't be reported. Okay. Okay, the second one, ordinal. Tadi the first one, nominal. Any question related to nominal? Another example of variable under nominal is race. Race, bangsa. Okay, the numbering that we use just to reflect the race. It does not mean that any race is superior or inferior than others if we use the lower value ataupun the higher value. Okay.
Kalau race ni doktor, we can put others lah. Macam mix tu kan.
Possible.
Indian or whatsoever.
Possible. Okay, next one, ordinal. So ordinal, in ordinal, numbers represent a rank order of the properties of object. So dalam ordinal, numbering ni start to give logical meaning. Kalau dalam nominal, numbers just to represent the group. But in ordinal, other than represent the group, numbers that we use start to give logical meaning in terms of ranking order. Maksudnya ada maksud, nombor tu start ada maksud. Okay, so the rank order could be based on size. Bila kita nak arrange dia tu, it can be based on size, based on speed, okay, importance or insignificant, correctness, or any other property capable of being ranked. For example, outcomes of a race. For example, first place, second place, third place. Ataupun economic status ke. Okay, kita boleh rank dia dalam bentuk yang logik. Okay, so to the property of distinctiveness, okay, ordinal measures therefore add the property of order. Beza dengan nominal tadi ingat numbers just to represent the group. Property yang sama ada dalam ordinal, which is the first property for ordinal, the number that we use to represent the group, but it has a second property, which is number start to give logical meaning, logical order. Faham?
But Naomi, like if let's say we use 1 for B40, 2 to M40, 3 to T20, something like that.
Something like that. Tapi biasanya kita akan gunakan lowest numbers to represent the good attribute. Sama kadang-kadang macam tu lah. Kadang-kadang satu ataupun sometimes kita guna nombor yang banyak to represent ikut keadaan. Okay? Tapi dia ada logical meaning. Okay? Order yang tunjuk the arrangement yang kita buat tu ada maksud tertentu. Okay. Although the numbers used in ordinal measurement imply rank order, but the interval between the two scale points are not assumed to be equal. Dia tak semestinya equal. The scale tu, kalau kita tengok, kalau kita imagine pembaris, when we imagine the ruler, we can see that the ruler tu has two equal interval. But in ranking ni, we know that there are differences between two classes. But we do not exactly know the interval. Macam economic status, social status for example. Social status. Kita boleh bezakan tak social status yang high social status, medium, moderate? Boleh tak bezakan? Tak boleh kan? This is very subjective evaluation. Ada benda yang kita tak boleh define unless we quantify in terms of salary kalau ikut T20, B40, M40, right? Faham Okay, so taking the accounts of a race as example. Okay, we know that the person finishing the first the race, racing. Okay, perlumbaan. Okay, finishing first is faster than the person finishing second, but we do not know how much faster because ordinal measurement does not tell us anything about the amounts of which scale points differ. Kita tahu yang first tu, tapi kalau dalam if measure in minutes then we know lah. Okay, tapi kita dapat first, the second, kita tak tahu. Kita tahu the first is better than the second, but we do not know the difference. Okay. So ordinal measures can be transformed in any way that preserve the original order. Okay, therefore we could substitute the number 3, 18 and 21 for the numbers 1, 2 and 3 without losing the properties of distinctiveness and order. So number ni kita start bagi ikut dia punya ranking. Okay, so ordinal measures cannot be assumed to have equal interval. Okay, dia tak ada equal interval. Therefore, it is not meaningful or appropriate to perform arithmetic operations such as addition or subtraction on them. Okay, so statistical index such as the mode, median and interquartile range are appropriate because these do not assume equal interval. Ini yang kita boleh report, tapi still mean not possible. Okay. So items measured on the commonly used strongly disagree to strongly agree. The most specific one, which is the Likert-like scale. Okay, if people ask you, okay, what is the scale of measurement for Likert-like scale? What is the answer?
Strongly agree.
Saya tanya, soalan dia, the question is, dengar soalan betul-betul. Okay, if someone asks you, okay, the Likert-like scale ni we use 1 to strongly, 1 represent the strongly disagree, 2 to represent disagree, 3 not sure, 4 agree, 5 strongly agree. Ini this scale ni reflect the Likert-like scale, skala Likert. Nah dengar? Dalam questionnaire tu 1 hingga 5, 1 hingga 10, 1 hingga 7, 1 to 5, sometimes the researcher use 1 to 5, sometimes they use 1 to 7, sometimes 1 to 10. Okay, what is the scale of measurement for the Likert-like scale ni? Apa dia?
Ordinal.
Ordinal. Dah tulis dah tu Syahris, saya tengok je Syahris sebab dia nak jawab tadi kan. Okay, please remember the Likert-like scale. Okay, Likert-like scale is one of the example of ordinal variable. Dia bukan continuous. Continuous tak tahu pula apa pula doktor continuous, baru belajar. Okay, tak apalah, ingat je. Likert-like scale is the variable under ordinal scale of measurement. Why? Because do we know? Kalau saya tanya, do we know what are the differences? How much differences between agree and strongly agree? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 20?
No further explanation.
Apa dia? No further explanation. Tak boleh dah. Tak boleh nak kata apa. Tak ada beza. Tak boleh nak beza. Okay? Tak ada beza. Kita tak boleh nak bezakan. But we know that strongly agree better than agree. Kalau strongly disagree, disagree tu better than strongly disagree. Depending on the context or the items lah. Right? But we...
Doktor,
yes.
that's why the mathematical process tu add up, subtract whatever process tu tak boleh nak add on lah dengan finding kita lah.
Ya. So, faham dia tak boleh. Sebenarnya dia tak boleh. Tapi adalah yang membolehkan nanti. Macam mana kita dapatkan min tu? Adalah nanti. Nanti saya ajar. Okay? So faham Okay, so Likert-like scale is an ordinal scale of measurement. So because we do not know whether respondents consider the psychological distance between strongly agree and agree to be the same as that between strongly disagree and disagree, or any other scale point. Kita tak tahu sebenarnya. Is it, kalau kita letak, for example, we use 1 to 5. 5 ni indicate strongly agree. Right. Tapi strongly agree ni, is it strongly agree ni betul-betul strongly agree lebih slightly strongly agree? Kita tak tahu yang membezakan tu. Okay. And then some of you might ask, Doctor, why some researcher prefer to use 5 like scale, some prefer to use 7, some prefer to use 10. Pernah nampak tak these variations when you go through the literature? Pernah nampak?
Pernah.
So basically the preference depending on our respondent. Okay, the preference, the researcher preference, either to use 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. The maximum 10 lah, 10. Biasanya 10. Okay, depending on the ability of respondent to discriminate between the point. Okay, the ability of the respondent to discriminate. Kebolehan, bergantung kepada kebolehan respondent untuk membezakan setiap point tersebut. Maksudnya kita assume if you use more point, for example 10, your respondents we expect to have higher level of education. Maksudnya dia boleh membezakan apa beza 9 dengan 10, apa beza 8 dengan 7. Okay, itu maksud dia.
Doktor,
Yes.
dia ada point yang selamat tak? Maknanya dia safe point lah.
Safe
Which
point
is
5. 5.
Okay.
Okay, tiga tu susah lah. But basically we use 5. Most of the time, previous researcher use 5. But depending juga. Ada setengah tu memang the original instrument use 7. So you have to use 7. Okay, then another question probably from you, even though it's come from me. Okay, is there any effect? Okay, if in one instrument, if in one questionnaire we have some section that use 5 point, some section that use 7, some use 10. Ada tak beza? Ada effect tak?
Beza kot.
Apa sebab saya tanya saya jawab no, there's no effect. Okay, no problem, because the final analysis is based on the total score, the composite score, not the individual score, the composite score. So dia tak ada masalah. If let's say in your questionnaire you have a combination of different like scale, tak ada masalah. Okay, tak ada masalah, langsung tak ada masalah. Okay. Okay, next one, interval. Any question? Can you differentiate between nominal and ordinal? Nominal, number we use to represent the group. Okay, in ordinal, nominal, ordinal, number first, a number we use to represent the group. The second attribute, number start to give logical meaning, logical order. Okay, next one, interval. Okay, before we proceed to interval and ratio, okay, the other name for nominal and ordinal ni, we call it as categorical variable. Pemboleh ubah yang ada kategori, categorical variable. Okay. Next one, interval and ratio. So interval ni, other than the properties of distinctiveness and order, okay, interval ni dia ada attribute. It holds the attributes of number we use as coding, number we use to represent the group. Second, number we use hold the logical meaning. Dia ada extra attributes, which is interval measures have the property of equal interval. For interval ni, you can start imagine your ruler. Kita ada interval yang sama. Okay. So this means that the intervals between the two scale points are assumed to be the same across the entire scale continuum. So a common example of interval level measurement is temperature. Temperature yang paling senang. Okay, as measured by Fahrenheit or centigrade scales, in which the difference in heat between scale points of 50 degree and 51 degree is the same as the difference between 90 degree and 91. Beza dia sama, which is 1. Dia ada equal interval. Okay, so interval measures can be transformed through any linear transformation of the form y equals to a plus bx. Equals, ataupun commonly in statistics we use y equals to mx plus c during our secondary school, kan, linear equation, y equals to mx plus c. Or okay, when you attend your statistic class, maybe Prof Bahaman will use y equals to b0 plus b1x1 atau b0 plus bx. It is the same thing. Okay, it just reflect the linear equation. Okay, so because of their equal interval property, So it is appropriate, therefore, to calculate nearly all parametric statistics such as the mean, standard deviation, and correlation from interval level data. For the categorical variable just now, nominal and ordinal, you cannot calculate the mean. You cannot get the standard deviation, and then you cannot run the correlation analysis. Cannot, because it is in categorical. Faham Sebab bila saya sebut kat sini, bila sebut je scale of measurement, it will link to statistics. Tak boleh lari dah. Okay, link to statistics. So a variable in nominal or ordinal, you cannot run the correlation. Okay, for interval and ratio, yes, you can proceed with correlation. Okay, and then apa lagi saya nak tambah tadi sebelum saya terlupa. Okay, so the only lacking, the only weaknesses of interval ni, 0 doesn't mean 0. Okay, another property of interval, 0 doesn't mean 0. Apa maksud 0 bukan bermaksud kosong ni? 0 doesn't mean that it is absent from any attributes. For example, temperature, sama. Temperature, 0 degree Celsius, does it mean any temperature or not? 0.
Temperature. Temperature. There is a temperature.
There's something. Something. You are freezing at 0 degree Celsius. You are freezing. The attribute is still there, even though it is indicated that the temperature is 0 degree Celsius. Okay? Faham So maksudnya ada variable walaupun kosong, dia tak bermaksud kosong. Another example is any cognitive scale. Any cognitive psychological scale. If you score 0 in correlation topic, statistic correlation topic, does it mean that you know nothing about statistic? At least tahulah tambah tolak tak? Tak, at least. Doesn't mean that you know nothing about maths. It just probably you do not study that topic last night. Itu sahaja. Another thing is, for example, you score for IQ test, you score 0. Does it mean that you are not emotionally intelligent? Contoh.
Contoh.
Example. But it makes sense lah, right? It is impossible. For certain variable, it is impossible for 0 to means nothing, no attributes at all. Okay, faham So faham kat sini interval ni biasanya semua scale yang related to exam test, psychological test, biasanya dia letak di bawah interval. Okay? Okay. So boleh bezakan nominal, ordinal, interval. Sekarang interval. Nominal, ordinal, interval. Okay, any question before we proceed with ratio? Boleh? Ada soalan nak tanya? Tak nampak lagi doktor, soalan apa nak tanya? Okay, tak apa. Next one is ratio. Okay, so ratio ni is a level, is the highest of Stevens 1946 scale of level of measurement. Dia the highest, yang paling tinggi. If your variable located under this ratio, you have more power. You can use the most powerful statistical analysis. Kalau variable you all located ada karakter ratio ni, you all boleh guna analisis statistik yang paling powerful, which is regression. Interval pun dah boleh dah. Tapi powerful lah. Okay, so in addition to the properties of distinctiveness, order and equal interval, so ratio ni dia ada ke semua karakteristik yang ada dalam nominal, ordinal and interval. Semua dia ada. Okay, ratio level of measurement has the attributes or property of true 0 point. Beza dengan interval tadi saya kata 0 doesn't mean the absence of the attribute. Okay, but in ratio, other than they have it has the characteristic of another lower scale of measurement tadi, it has another special criteria which is true 0. True 0 means that 0 is 0. 0 means 0. 0 equals to 0. For example, senang je. Okay. I want to borrow 50 ringgit from Syaril because it's already end of the month. Okay, I'm already lack of money, for example. Then I said, Syaril, can I borrow you 50 ringgit? Okay, saya kata, doktor, dalam in my purse or in my dompet, okay, tak ada bu, I got none. Contoh, tapi saya tahu Syarif banyak duit. Okay. Then is it mean that I can get that 50 ringgit from Syarif? No, tak adalah. Zero means zero. Kan? Zero means zero. Zero. And then another example, if you drive your car at 0 km/h, does your car moving?
No.
No. Kosong maksudnya kosong. Ada. Okay. Okay, so a true 0 point is one that represent the absolute lack of the property being measured. Maksudnya tak ada sifat, tak ada. For example, RM0 indicates the absolute lack of any money. Okay, and then ni Kevin. Okay, tak apa. Many physical scales such as height, weight, and time, as well as things that can be counted, such as the number of test items correct or the number of students in the classroom, are at the ratio level of measurement. So all parametric statistic operations are permissible for variables at the ratio level of measurement. Okay, so itu saya kata tadi, ratio ni kalau variable you all dekat state ratio ni, for example salary, age, okay, salary gaji, okay, age, but salary ni salary in continuous form but if you mention your salary in category, for example category ni 0 to 1,000, okay, tukar. But nowadays the minimum wage is 1,500, right? So 0 lesser than 1,500, okay, and then 1,500 to 3,000, 3,000 to 4,000. So that one is a categorical, categorical, which is ordinal scale of measurement. The continuous ni means that your respondent indicate their exact or their true salary. Okay, if I provide you the example, if you go through some of the questionnaire, okay, some of the researcher, okay, for the section demography, under section salary, they will provide you with the category 1, less than 1,500. Second one, 1,501 to 3,000, for example, category 2, and so on. This one is ordinal scale of measurement, ordinal. Kalau continuous ataupun kalau ratio, if the researcher let the respondent state their actual salary, 800 ke, ini adalah 800 ke 1,000 ke. So this one is ratio. This one is ordinal. My question, which one is more powerful data? Category or continuous? This one? This one or this one?
Continuous.
Continuous.
Continuous, which is A. Why? Why A?
They put the exact numbers of
It is more
salary.
accurate.
More accurate lagi.
Exact numbers of salary.
Exact number of salary lagi. It allows you to get the mean, standard deviation. Then you can proceed with higher level of analysis. But which one is more easier to be collected? A or B?
B, of course.
B, of course. But you miss a lot of information. You miss a lot of information. Tapi kebanyakan researcher memang dia akan guna this one. But to me, I always recommend my student to use this one. Because anytime if you have your data in this form, you can transform into this form. Anytime. Okay, you can establish categories from your actual data. But if you have the categorical data, you cannot transform into this continuous form. Kalau you all ada dalam bentuk continuous ni, you all boleh bentukkan dia macam-macam jenis. Tapi kalau you all ada dalam categorical, so itulah dia rupanya daripada awal hingga akhir. Okay? Faham? Faham? Kau tak boleh imagine. Senyap tu tanda setuju lah tu. Okay. So, ya.
Doktor,
Yeah.
nak tanya juga. Maksudnya kalau untuk yang ratio tu, kalau kita nak dapatkan yang ratio tu, kita dalam, katalah kita bagi questionnaire, dia kena kosongkan lah, maknanya dia isi yang betul, bukan kita bagi like skill punya.
Yes. Dia bukan like lah. We didn't provide them with the category. We let them mention or specify their true salary, their actual salary. Another example is their experience, working experience, for example. Kita tak letak dalam kategori, kita biarkan dia yang letak sendiri berapa tahun, berapa dia punya working experience, berapa dia punya salary, berapa jarak daripada rumah. Contoh, kalau dalam kajian melibatkan work from home, contohnya, kan? Work from home conflict contohnya, kita nak tahu distance.
Age pun example untuk ratio juga, kan doktor?
Yes. Age also, but make sure when it is in continuous form lah. Continuous form ni meaning that your respondent indicate their actual age. Their actual age. Kalau we as a researcher, we provide the category for them, so it is no longer the ratio, it is the ordinal. Faham Okay. So ini dia punya, kita punya attributes of the 4 scale of measurement just now. Okay, we have nominal. Okay, the number that we use, we just to represent the group and to differentiate or distinctive between the categories. Okay, and then ordinal, that number we use to differentiate the category, and then it has the order or logical order, logical ranking. Okay, and then interval, distinctiveness, order and equal interval, ratio, distinctiveness, order, equal interval, and true zero. Itu yang membezakan ratio dengan interval, true zero. Kalau dalam ratio, zero kosong maksud dia kosong. Interval, kosong tak semestinya kosong. Okay, okay, kita try. Ada ke tak ni? Tak boleh buka lah kahut ni, tak apalah, tak boleh nak try lah.
Dr. Normi,
Yes.
I just want to share that kita ada Institute Statistics. So we are talking about statistics right now. Dekat exit, kalau exit video kita akan nampak ada Institute Statistics. I'm not sure whether it's Sungai atau Slim River dengan tagline statistik nadi kehidupan. So just to let our friend know lah, statistik tu nadi kehidupan. Bila saya fikir-fikir balik during COVID, the statistic is a very important info that all the Malaysian needs to know every day lah.
Kan?
So
betul?
Ha.
regardless the growing number of qualitative study, numbers ni, tapi jangan takut. For social science study kita tak adalah go in depth, go sedalam macam mana statistics dekat pure science tu. Tak adalah macam tu. At least we know what does it mean lah. Dalam kehidupan seharian memang tak dapat dipisahkan. Betul tak, Elhelwa?
Ya, itu Syairah yang bagi tahu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is apa tu?
Doctor, I just have one question regarding the measurement ni. Probability or kebarangkalian tu consider measurement ke bukan?
Probability, no. It is a type of analysis. Dia bukan measurement.
Okay. So kita tak payah pakai lah.
Baiklah, tak payah susah-susah. Dia mudah je. Jangan menyusahkan diri sendiri. Kadang-kadang orang yang menyusahkan diri sendiri, tahu tak? Kuantitatif tak adalah sesuka. Quantitative research is not that difficult as what you imagine. But it is also not as easy as you might imagine. Dua-dua tak? Okay?
Hypothesis testing, doktor?
Hypothesis testing. Also any test, any term yang you use the word test, apa lagi, test, pilot test, all the term to use in quanti. Nanti saya explain bila kita nak pakai testing hypothesis ni. Okay, nanti saya explain. Ada rasanya. Kalau saya terlupa explain, nanti tanya balik bila nanti saya explain. Okay, so these are the summary of statistical analysis. Okay, some of the statistical analysis according to the level of measurement. Okay, if your variable is in nominal, okay, then you can report the mode. Okay, mode. And then kalau ordinal, if your variable in ordinal scale of measurement, you can report the sequence of variable. Okay, mode, median. Okay, But if you have the variable, your variable in either in interval, then you can report the sequence, you can report mode, median, mean. Okay, difference between variables can be evaluated. You can differentiate. You can report how much the difference between two variable. Okay, and then you can add and subtract the variable. Ini untuk interval. For ratio, okay, you can report the sequence, mode, median, mean, difference between variables, addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, as well as you can report the absolute value. So ini kelebihan kalau kita ada variable yang ratio, which is more powerful, sangat powerful. Okay. Okay, so kita tengok pula sikit-sikit. Sikit-sikit. Okay, what statistics are appropriate according to a scale of measurement? So for nominal, you can report frequency, percentage, okay, mode. Okay, and then in terms of analysis, you can run the chi-square correlation contingency, which is contingency correlation. Chi-square in test of independent. Contoh, datang apa dah pula doktor chi-square ni. Tak apa, saya sebut je dulu. Nanti dalam in your statistic class you will learn. You will Prof Bahaman will explain in detail. Okay, chi-square correlation or another name is chi-square test of independent, okay, which is another name is contingency correlation. They are quite similar with cross-tab if you use Excel, cross-tabulation. Pernah dengar tak cross-tab? Tak pernah juga? Cross-tabulation, pernah dengar? Tak pernah dengar?
Pernah dengar.
Cross-tab. So, chi-square ni dia lebih kurang sama dengan cross-tabulation. Okay. And then the second one, ordinal. So you can use all calculation of the previous level as in nominal. Okay. And then median, we can report median might be calculated as a measure of central tendency, percentile, quartile, and some additional non-parametric statistic might be used. Apa pula non-parametric ni? Saya explain tak lagi? Explain tak lagi parametric? Dah
Macam dah parametric sample semua tu dah.
Ingat so parametric non-para ni meaning that your data does not need to fulfill the requirement of normality. Ingat balik normality. Okay, dah tu. Okay, for example, Spearman rank order correlation. Okay, you can use to calculate the correlation between two variable measured at the ordinal level. Okay, so kalau in statistic there are two types of statistical analysis that you can use to correlate between two variables. The first one is Spearman rank order correlation. The second one is Pearson product moment correlation. So Spearman rank order correlation ni we use for ordinal data. Okay, both our IVs and DV are in categorical variable, or okay, our IV, one of our IV or DV, okay, doesn't meet the requirement of normality. So then we can use the Spearman rank order. Okay, but if let's say our data fulfill the requirement of normality, then we can use the Pearson product moment correlation. Okay, the next one, interval. So for interval, we can use almost every statistical tool. Semua boleh. Basically semua boleh. All the previously allowed tool might be used as what in nominal or ordinal. Okay, you can report mean and standard deviation. Okay, both frequently used calculations of central tendency, which is mean, mode, and median, and variability, which is measure of dispersion. So the range, variance, and standard deviation. Okay, becomes available for use at this level, and then the only statistical tools that should not be used at this level are those that require the use of ratios such as the coefficient of variation. Ini je yang tak boleh. The rest semua boleh pakai. Okay, and then for ratio, you can use all available statistical tools. Semua boleh. Sebab tu saya kata dia powerful. Okay, kita boleh pakai semua. Okay. Okay, from this one, methods of data collection. Kita ada data collection ni, kita ada secondary sources, primary sources. Okay, secondary. Last 2 weeks kot, ada yang tanya, possible tak kalau kajian kuali tu guna document analysis, possible for qualitative study, possible which is the data collection being conducted through the secondary source. Okay, document. Okay, for secondary source, for example, document lah. So we have government publications, past research, census, salah eja ni personal records, client history, service records, for example. And then we have the primary source, which is we directly collect the data from the respondent. For example, we have questionnaire or observation. Okay, for observation, we have participant or non-participant. Questionnaire, we have, for example, male questionnaire or collective questionnaire. Or interview, ada juga structured or unstructured interviews. Okay. Okay, any questions so far? Faham dah, clear dah pasal instrumen Okay, so in terms of questionnaire development, okay, make sure when we want to develop the instrument, okay, develop the instrument So the instrument, the item ni must be clear and easy to understand by our respondent, not just by us. Make sure by our respondent. So the term that we use in our item, in our instrument must reflect with the setting of our study or must reflect our respondent of the study. Okay. And then in terms of layout dia. Ni kadang-kadang researcher dia tak particular sangat. As long as item dia ada, cukup lah. Item dia ada dan bilangan page dia rasa cukup, cukup lah. Tapi ini sebenarnya dia membantu ketepatan ataupun keinginan responden untuk menjawab soalan kita, layout dia. Okay, kalau tak, regardless if you use the online questionnaire or the hard copy, make sure the layout is interesting. Kalau if you use the hard copy, so in terms of paper color, the color of paper, kalau boleh jangan pakai merah. Dia akan affect the psychology of your respondent. Perhaps you can use green. Okay, if your respondents are someone with age above 50, so the font size should be larger. Consider benda-benda tu. Okay, so make sure it is easy to read, pleasant to the eyes. Okay, sequence that is easy to follow. Okay, you arrange your instrument or your items according to the level of difficulty. Susun cantik-cantik. Okay, yang lagi senang jawab, pada susah sikit and so on. And then develop in an interactive style if possible. Okay, if possible. Okay, and then the contents of the covering letter. Regardless of qualitative or quantitative instrument, make sure you have cover letter. Kena ada. Okay, so in which it will introduce you and the institution you are representing. Describe in 2 or 3 sentences the main objective of the study. Explain the relevance of the study to the respondent. Okay, convey any general instructions. Okay, indicate that participant in the study is voluntary. Penglibatan responden dalam kajian kita adalah sukarela. If respondents do not want to respond to the questionnaire, they have the right not to. They can withdraw anytime, at any time. Okay, walaupun kita pilih dia untuk terlibat dalam kajian kita, tapi dia boleh untuk tidak terlibat. We cannot force them. It is unethical to force anybody to include in our study. We can invite them, but we cannot force them. Okay. And then we assure the respondents anonymity of the information provided by them. We make sure kalau in quantitative or qualitative, we provide them, we secure them with anonymity. Okay, kalau dalam qualitative we use in quantitative, the data analysis, okay, is conducted based on group. Maksudnya we are not interested to analyze the data based on individual. Kita tak berminat nak report finding tu based on individual 1, individu 2, individu 3 and so on. It is based on group. Kan? Betul kan? That's why we have no intention to identify the respondent based on their individual attributes. Tak ada minat pun. So kita kena explain dekat respondent kita betul-betul. Yang pelibatan dia dalam kajian kuantitatif, kita tak akan reveal personal info pun, sebab hujungnya kita akan analisis dia dalam kumpulan in which kita tak tahu pun itu merujuk kepada siapa. Faham But different with qualitative ni, the intention is based on individual response. But we can secure them with pseudonym. Pseudonym ni kita guna nama samaran untuk menyembunyikan maklumat asal berkaitan dengan responden. Faham Pseudonym. Biasanya kualitatif kita guna pseudonym lah, because the analysis of the data is based on individual. But in quantitative, the analysis of data based on group. Okay. And then provide a contact number in case they have any question. So provide your contact info in the cover page, in your cover page, in the cover letter ni. Okay, and then give a written address for the questionnaire and a deadline for its return. Okay, then thank them for their participation in the study. So ini contoh kriteria yang kena ada dalam cover page.
Doktor, kalau bagi goodies boleh?
Dia?
Bagi goodies.
Bagi goodies. Kalau
encourage them to answer all the questions.
Okay, dia sebenarnya by goodies ni kita bagi goodies ni ataupun bagi apa yang nama term dia, bagi hadiah lah. Dia sebenarnya it is unethical lah, because it is unethical commonly macam kita nak merasuah responden kita. But ada juga second thought, it says that because we want to appreciate their participation in our study. So the goodies is not necessarily in dalam bentuk mark. Okay, it can be in Tachengo punya fees tu, Tachengo top up, okay, ataupun phone top up, ataupun Pizza Hut coupon, KFC coupon, banyak benda.
Maybe the definition tu quite different bila kita bagi goodies, before or after. Kalau before tu mungkin ada unsur-unsur rasuah, kalau after tu more to appreciation lah.
Agak-agak kalau bagi sebelum jawab tu, nak jawab tak lepas ni, dah dapat dah. Kalau saya tak jawab dah, saya dah dapat dah. It can be a motivation by giving the goodies ataupun a small gift to them, it can be a motivation for them to answer the question. But we do not influence them in terms of their answer. In terms of their answer, we do not influence. We just want them to participate or motivate them to participate in our study. That's all. Tapi biasanya orang bagi selepas lah, after they completed the study, then we give the goodies. Biasanya lepas. Kalau sebelum tu, kalau saya tak nak jawab dah, saya dah dapat dah. Okay.
Tapi doktor, dalam kerajaan tak boleh terima hadiah.
Depending lah. Tapi you all ada amount kan yang you all tak boleh terima kan?
Declare
lah Razi.
Declare lah. Itu you all terima lah setakat RM5 je. Kan? RM5. Kadang-kadang sometimes kan the respondents ni feel very happy. I just want to share lah. Okay, last time when I did my master study, master science, so I did a study in I did my study related to corporate social responsibility, CSR. Okay, I went to one village in Pahang, which is, to me, it was my first time to see my participant with that situation. Sangat menyedihkan lah pada saya. Okay, and then sebab nak bawa mak tu rasa tak berkena, tak kena sangat, because my respondents come from a very poor family. They were provided with a very good house, but poor family. They do not have job. Okay, the sekolah yang paling dekat, the closest school is 20 kilometers. Okay, and then tanah yang kiri kanan rumah yang besar tu, it's not their own land. Okay, and then they have no job there. The closest factory there is around 30-50 kilometers. So at that time, what we brought to the respondent is gula dan biskut. Gula dan biskut to encourage them to answer the questionnaire. Tapi menitik air mata lah tengok responden tu. Kan? Tapi maksudnya bila kita nak bagi gift tu depend juga dekat responden kita. Mungkin kalau government officer ni you all bagi pen je lah, cukup lah, cukup untuk menulis. Mark tu dah banyak bagi kan, bagi pen.
Doktor, dia orang boleh baca ke?
Apa baca? Boleh, baca boleh. Baca boleh. Tapi itulah bila kita turun buat data collection sendiri dan kita tengok situasi tu menyedihkan lah. Even bayangkan saya baru je letak biskut tu, anak dia tu ambil makan kat dapur. Rupanya tak pergi sekolah hari tu sebab tak ada benda nak makan. Okay, itu contoh lah bila kita pergi field, kita buat data collection yang betul-betul kita tengok the real situation. Okay, so ini contoh the example of a cover page of a questionnaire. Okay, so we indicate the title of study, okay, and then your your name, okay, and then any general instruction lah, okay, and then your information lah sikit, okay, so that if the respondent have any inquiries and so on, they can revert to you, okay. Ini contoh. Okay, and then advantage and disadvantage of questionnaire. Okay, advantage dia less expensive, greater anonymity. Okay, so kalau dalam questionnaire, last time you can see that the researcher provide you with a box kat atas ni box. And then you all pun tanda lah 1, 2, 3 ataupun you all letak lah your IC and so on kat sini ni. Last time lah, sekarang tak ada dah kot. Okay, sebenarnya the box here is not for respondent, but it is for researchers' future reference. Okay, box kat sini bukan untuk respondent. Yang dia letak ID ni, it's not for respondent. It is for researchers' future reference. Okay, when he or she want to enter the data into IBM SPSS letter, the number that he or she locate here should tally with the number in IBM SPSS. Itu sahaja. Number here. So clearkan betul-betul dekat responden kita. Numbering here bukan nak numberkan or nak we want to identify them individually, but we want to make sure that the information that we entered into IBM SPSS is tally with this particular questionnaire. Itu sahaja. Okay. Ini dah. Ini tick. Clear. Okay. And then disadvantage, application is limited. Okay, basically only for quantitative lah, and self-selecting bias because the variable included in the study or in the instrument only based on the researchers, based on what researcher choose or selected. Okay, and then opportunity to clarify issues is lacking. Okay, if let's say the respondent have further justification related to item, they cannot place their individual point of view. Okay, and then spontaneous responses are not allowed for. The response to a question may be influenced by the response to other question. Possible juga. Ini dia punya kelemahan questionnaire. Okay, forms of question. Ini contoh-contoh soalan. Dia ada bentuk-bentuk soalan. Form of question, open-ended, close-ended. Okay, so you all boleh tahu dah open-ended macam mana, close-ended macam mana. Okay, consideration in formulating questions. So always use simple and everyday language or avoid technical jargon. Okay, for example, is everyone in your family a dipsomaniac? Tengok siapa responden kita. Make sure it is suitable. Study our respondent first. The term that we use should be applicable to their setting. Maksudnya kena buat proper literature review. Make sure you do your proper literature review. Do not use ambiguous question, which is one that contains more than one meaning and that can be interpreted differently by different people. Avoid double meaning item. Okay, for example, is your work made difficult because you are expecting a baby? Dia boleh jadi your work difficult, but not necessarily because you are expecting a baby. So it is a double meaning question. Okay, ada satu soalan, one item tu only consists of one meaning. Tak boleh double meaning. Okay, do not ask double-barreled question, which is question with a question. For example, how often and how much time do you spend on each visit? Okay, dua, double barrel. Okay, do not ask leading questions. Okay, unemployment is increasing, isn't it? Smoking is bad, isn't it? Jangan tanya macam tu. Okay. And then collecting data using attitudinal scale, which is measure the intensity of respondents' attitude towards the various aspects of a situation or issue. You can use different scale to measure different attitudinal variables. So this one related to the interval variable lah, interval scale of measurement variable. Okay, attitudinal scale. Okay, any questions so far? Soalan. Clear Clear ke tak clear ke? Saya pun tak pasti doktor clear ke tak. Okay, now instrument measurement. There are two questions that you might want to ask before you start collecting your data. Either you want to use the instrument developed by previous scholar, or you want to develop a new instrument. Ada dua. Nak betul-betul nak develop yang baru ataupun nak guna yang sedia ada. The easiest one is you use the existing instrument. But in some study, it is possible that the instrument, that the variable that he or she want to measure, the instrument are still not there in the literature. Possible. So we have two options. Either we want to adopt the instrument or we want to adapt the instrument. Ada beza adopt and adapt. Okay, adopt an instrument, adopt a measurement, or adapt the measurement, a measurement. Okay, so first adopt measurement, it happens when there is no changes should be made in wording, answer category, order, or format of question or administrative procedure. Kalau you all develop barulah. But this one, based on existing, you have two options. Either you want to adopt or adapt. Okay, adopt means that you should do no changes in terms of wording. Word tak boleh tukar apa-apa. Answer category, you cannot change. Order or format of question or administrative procedures, you cannot change. You have to follow the procedures that been instructed by previous scholar or the person who developed the instrument. Itu maksud dia. Adopt tak boleh buat apa-apa penambahbaikan. The wording tak boleh ubah. Okay. So we adopt the instrument when we want to replicate a study. Replicate not duplicate. Replicate. Okay, and then incapable of improve another's instrument. Okay, we adopt because we cannot improve the previous instrument. Tak boleh. Okay, and then instrument is under copyright. For example, a few psychological instrument, which is it is under copyright, so therefore we cannot change anything on the instrument, in the instrument. Okay, and then next one, to use instrument of known reliability and validity. Sebab apa? Instrumen yang kita guna yang lepas tu dah good reliability and validity, already reported very good reliability and validity. Okay, so ini situasi di mana kita adopt. Adapt pula bila? When we should adapt. Shall we adapt if we change any aspect of an instrument? Salah ni, not AND N. AN je. Okay, if we change any aspect of the instrument, the name is adapt. Adapt. Walaupun you all setakat ubah is to are. Okay, walaupun ubah sikit je, it's already adapt. Okay, so we adapt when the instrument is too long. For example, the selected instrument, you have around 30 items. So then you want to reduce some of the item, becomes the final items, it become 15. And then different population from the original. So we use different population. For example, the developer of the instrument, you tested the instrument among secondary school teachers. But for your study, you want to use that instrument for employees in manufacturing company. So then you should use the term adapt, not adopt. Okay, and then instrument need to be translated to other language. Okay, for example, original instrument is in Dutch, German, bahasa Jerman, Dutch contohnya. Okay, then you want to translate the instrument in Malay or in Mandarin. So you should use the term adapt. And then instrument need to be expanded or reordered according to logical order, for example. Then change in the data collection procedure. In terms of data administration, you change the procedure. So then you can use the term adapt. Okay, and then for any adapted instrument, for any adapted measurement, you should repeat the pilot test. That's why kita dalam quantitative, kita ada pilot study. Okay, which is we want to reconfirm, okay, the instrument's reliability and validity. Okay. Okay, factors influencing reliability. Factors influencing instrument reliability. Ada beberapa faktor. Yang pertama, test takers personal characteristic. For example, the respondents motivation, health, mood, fatigue. So bila kita nak edarkan questionnaire ni, kita kena tengok keadaan responden kita. If our respondents is among those with chronic health problem, so we need to consider the most suitable data collection procedure for them. Kalau possible untuk you all pergi jumpa dia dan bacakan soalan untuk dia, then you have to do so. Okay, then variation in test setting, for example, differences in the physical characteristics of the room. Okay, variation in the administration and scoring of the test. Okay, and then variation in participant responses due to guessing, dia meneka. Okay, and then the instrument itself, which is luck is more of a factor in a short test than in a long test. Kadang-kadang some of the researcher they prefer to use long test. Maksudnya item tu banyak sebab dia nak double check. Okay, nak elakkan luck ni. Okay. So, reliability ni related to consistency. Dah faham dah reliability apa kan? Reliability ni related to consistency. Consistent. Consistent means that the instrument that we use provide us with the consistent result over different time. Kalau kita guna in 2010, it provide us with one result. In 2020, it provide us with similar result. Result yang sama. Result tu adalah consistent. Itu adalah reliable. Okay. So, reliability of consistency related to observer or rater. Okay, test over time, different version of the same test, a test at one point in time. Okay. Okay, so reliability ini dia punya definisi reliability. So reliable indicates measure that are relatively free of random error. This one based on statistical perspective lah. Okay, but for layman, reliability ni relates to consistency. Consistency, for example, a reliable person who is consistent but always 15 minutes late would still be reliable in a measurement context. Okay, dalam konteks reliability, as long as dia consistent saja datang 15 minit lambat, itu adalah reliable person. Okay, a measure can be reliable but not necessarily accurate ataupun valid. Instrumen boleh jadi memberi bacaan yang konsisten tetapi dia tidak bermaksud yang dia adalah tepat. Okay. Okay, how can we assess the reliability? There are three ways. First, test-retest reliability. Second, alternate form reliability. And last one, internal consistency reliability. The one that mostly been reported by your senior is internal consistency reliability. Ini yang biasa kita dilakukan lah Okay, so test-retest ni, it is similar. It is the same scale that we administered twice with an interval of a few weeks. For example, 4 to 6 weeks or higher to the same set of respondent. Ini macam mana kita nak retest reliability of an instrument. Similar instrument, we measure twice to similar respondent. But we have the interval, the time interval between 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, and then we correlate the two data set from the same individual known as intra-observer reliability. Okay, bila kita correlatekan dapatan kita for data 1 dan data 2, nama dia adalah intra-observer reliability. Okay, so the correlation between the two instrument ni, the name is correlation coefficient, which is R value, and then the R value larger than or equals to 0.7 considered to be acceptable. Bila kita run correlation between the two instrument ni, dia punya correlation value, correlation coefficient value should be should be equal to or larger than 0.7. Okay, faham And then problem for test-retest reliability, short intervals. For example, around 4 to 6 weeks ni, tend to yield too high reliability estimate. Okay, because of the learning practice effect. Because of the respondent can still recall the answer that he or she ticked during the first test. Okay, so it is also can lead to invalidity due to maturation if interval of instrument administration is too long, which is subject to change over time, and then respondent refuse to take a second administration, may cause some subject to drop out of the pool. Ini dia punya problem untuk test retest. Okay. Ini dia punya prosedur dalam SPSS dan output dia. Okay, if you run the correlation Pearson product moment correlation analysis, so the output will appear like this table ni. Okay, so apa yang kita baca adalah the correlation ni equals to the R value 0.938, which is higher than 0.7. So we can conclude that the instrument is reliable. Okay, it's acceptable lah. Faham macam mana nak baca? The two instrument, for example, visualization test 1, visualization test 2. Okay, this is the first data collection, the second data collection. We run the correlation analysis, we correlate the two instrument, then we got the correlation coefficient value. So how we can interpret based on the correlation coefficient value 0.938, which is larger than 0.7, which is the cut-off point that I indicated earlier. So therefore we can conclude that the instrument is acceptable. Faham? Tak faham dah? Tak boleh baca dah? Tak boleh terima dah? Okay, boleh lagi Boleh, okay. This is the APA presentation. So basically we present like this if you develop the instrument. Okay. For example, a Pearson correlation was computed to assess test-retest reliability of the visualization test score. Okay, so R equals to 0.938. So this indicates that there is a good test-retest reliability for this data. Ini kalau kita buat reporting ni kalau kita develop a new instrument. Okay, the second one is alternate form reliability. So it involves using differently worded items to measure the same attribute. The same attribute, but we use different wording. Okay, question and response are worded, or question and responses order change. Kita guna dua teknik. Okay, sama ada question and responses are reword, okay, or question and responses order change. Kita ubah susunan. Okay, we use same population at different time points. Sama macam yang first tadi, we use similar respondent but different time point. Okay, and then we measure the quality of the reliability ni according to the correlation coefficient value, sama macam yang pertama tadi. And then higher strength of relationship indicates higher reliability. So the cut-off point similar, are larger than or equals to 0.7, considered to be acceptable. Okay, kita guna correlation coefficient juga. Okay, for the advantage of alternate form reliability, we avoid the practice effect by changing the words or order. Kita guna teknik ni supaya respondent tak guna practice effect ni. Okay, and then 2 times points are closer together. Okay, 2 time points are closer together. Okay, ni example dia. Example version A. How often during the past 4 weeks have you felt sad and blue? Okay, all the time 1, most of the time some of the time, occasionally, never. Version B, okay, we change the point. Okay, never, from all over the time, we change to never. Most of the time, we change to occasionally. Okay, some of the time, sama, occasionally, most of the time, and then never all the time. Kita ubah je. Kita susun balik. Okay, faham Second example, during the past week, how often did you usually empty your bladder? First point, 1 to 2 times per day. Yang kedua, 3 to 4 times per day. 5 to 8 times per day. 12 times per day. More than 12 times per day. Kalau version B, the question is similar, but in terms of likelihood scale dia, every 12 to 24 hours 1, every 6 to 8 hours 2, every 3 to 5 hours 3, every 2 hours 4, more than every 2 hours 5. Kita ubah dia punya wording. Tadi arrangement. Okay? Faham Okay, next one, internal consistency reliability. So internal consistency procedures assess whether a set of items fits together or belongs together. It is applicable to groups of items. Maksudnya, if you want to run the internal consistency, you run for individual instrument. Hak lain pun individual instrument juga individual instrument tu. Okay, measure using an overall indicator of internal consistency reliability, which is Cronbach alpha and split half approach. Biasa yang kita pakai adalah Cronbach alpha. We report the Cronbach alpha. Okay. Okay, the first one, Cronbach alpha is a measure of internal consistency. It is a scale designed to measure a single construct. For example, job satisfaction. For your instrument to measure job satisfaction, for example, you have 5 items. Okay, and then based on these 5 items, you run the reliability analysis. Okay, then it will determine how does all the items correlated to one and another. Okay, and then it determines the degree to which all the items are measuring the same thing. Okay, the same construct. So alpha is measured on the same scale as Pearson correlation. Okay, the value range from 0 to 1. Saya alihkan ni. Mana dah tadi slide nombor ni dah. Ni. Okay, so the value for Cronbach alpha ni range from 0 to 1. The smallest is 0, the highest is 1. Okay, it shouldn't be more than 1. Okay, so the assumption all items must be measured on an interval or ratio. Okay, and then each item should be normally distributed. Only then you can calculate the Cronbach alpha. This is for manual calculation, which is not applicable for the course lah. Saya tunjuk je, tapi kita tak pakai pun. Okay, ini contoh. Okay, example of reliability output. Okay, from IBM SPSS. So when you run the reliability output, it provide you with this answer, this output. First, it provides you with the Cronbach alpha. Hold on, This is the Cronbach alpha. Okay, this is the overall reliability for the instrument. Okay, which is 0.792. Kalau 0.792 ni we compare against the 0.7 just now. Okay, so based on this value, okay, since the value is larger than 0.7, so the instrument is acceptable. Faham ini di value yang kita nak. This is the value that we want to compare against the 0.7 just now. Okay, and then the next table that we are interested to check is item total statistic table. Okay, item total statistic table. Specific row, column is this one. Cronbach alpha if item deleted. Okay, this is the overall for the 10 item. This is the overall Cronbach alpha for the 10 item. This is the Cronbach alpha for individual item. Okay. Please pay attention to my explanation. This is quite quite important and then can be confusing. Okay, if let's say when you run the internal consistency reliability, then your Cronbach alpha, for example, in your case, it is lesser than 0.7. For example, the value is 0.5. Contohnya kat sini nilai dia tunjuk 0.5. What should you do? Which is lesser than 0.7. Lesser than the cut-off point that we should target. What should we do? Redo? Relook for another instrument or how?
Delete any items that brought down the Cronbach alpha value.
Delete items that, apa lagi tadi, siapa yang jawab tadi? Delete item that,
item that brings down the Cronbach alpha value.
So delete the item that brings down the Cronbach alpha value. So which item? Okay, so to decide which item, refer to this column. Cronbach alpha if item deleted. Look for the Cronbach alpha if item deleted with highest value for this column. Cari item yang ada nilai Cronbach alpha if item deleted yang paling tinggi. For example, in this case, the highest Cronbach alpha if item deleted belongs to item number B8. Right, B8. So for example, in this case, when I delete these items B8 from my internal consistency analysis, the original Cronbach alpha of 0.5 just now will change to 0.8, will increase to 0.8. Faham
Doktor, kenapa delete yang the highest?
Delete the highest. Cuba cari tengok tajuk dia tu. Cronbach alpha if item deleted. Maksudnya
item tu represent the each question that we prepared in the questionnaire.
No, this one, for this column, the Cronbach alpha indicated here will change if you delete that particular item. Sebab tu for this column, we look for we look for items with higher Cronbach alpha if item deleted. Ni baca dia punya tajuk ni, heading ni.
Okay.
Cronbach alpha. Cronbach alpha if item deleted. For example, if we delete item B8, the Cronbach alpha will change to
8.80.
Yes, pandai. Faham
Sebab dia dah calculate kan?
Dia dah calculate kan?
Question tu macam saya tak faham sebab I think that berdasarkan overall and then dia kira means balik kan?
Okay. So let me show you the hands-on through IBM SPSS. Mas lagi kan? Mas lagi.
Doktor, sekejap. Okay, rentetan daripada soalan abang Cik Syara tadi. Kenapa kita pilih yang sampai jadi 0.8 sedangkan kalau 0.77 ataupun 76 pun dah melebihi 0.7 dia punya nilai Cronbach alpha tu.
Kenapa nak kena yang higher? Okay. Because for that case, the higher the value in that column, it indicate the lesser quality, the less quality of the item. Kalau kita nak pilih, kita akan pilih yang less quality ke ataupun yang ada quality tapi kurang sikit. Mana satu? For sure, we akan delete the one with less quality, which is the one with highest Cronbach alpha if item deleted. Faham tak? Faham? Regardless you delete with item, which item, you still need to delete one. But which one to be deleted? For sure, the one with less quality. Betul tak? So that's why kita pilih yang paling highest. We start with the highest Cronbach alpha if item deleted. Acceptable tak saya punya justification?
Okey, faham doktor.
Kita pilihlah yang memang yang paling tinggi dengkuk kolom tu. Takkan kita nak pilih, kita tahu dah ada item yang lagi tak berkualiti, tapi kita pilih yang ada kualiti sikit lagi. Faham Saya nak tunjuk how to run the internal consistency reliability in IBM SPSS. Yang ni tak wajib, saya tunjuk sahaja so that you know lah later when you because dalam kelas statistik saya tak pasti Probahaman akan tunjuk ke tak. Alamak. Sebab this statistik is on analysis. Tapi kalau data kelas data interpretation nanti ada lagi. So that you nampaklah macam mana nak run the analysis. So for example, this is your data set. Okay, this is the IBM SPSS. So I already key in the data. So for example, so for PB ni PB ni represent the philanthropic behavior. So I have 8 items measuring philanthropic behavior. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so to run the internal consistency reliability, I click analyze scale. Okay, analyze scale reliability analysis. Analyze scale reliability analysis. So in the reliability analysis box, I select all the 8 items, PB1 until PB8. And then locate under item box ni. Okay, nampak kan? Tak payah pening, nanti tak ada dalam exam, saya tunjuk sahaja. Okay, saya tunjuk je macam mana nak dapat. Okay, and then for model, we report alpha. And then click statistics. Okay, click statistic, we tick under descriptive for, we tick item, scale, and then scale if item deleted. That's all. Item, scale if item deleted, and click continue, and then click OK. Okay, ini sahaja. Okay, and then we go to our SPSS output. So this is the SPSS output window output, ketingkap output. So inilah dia punya, this is our reading. Ini punya bacaan dia. Okay, first what we interested at is the Cronbach alpha. So this is the overall Cronbach alpha. Okay, which is already acceptable lah in my case. So in my case, if I want to proceed without any deletion, I can proceed with no problem because it's already above 0.7. Okay, dia dah lebih daripada 0.7, so saya boleh pakai instrumen ni. But if let's say lah, okay, the reading here is equals to 0.59. Okay, so 0.59. So then how should I do to increase the overall Cronbach alpha? I refer to the item total statistic table. So this table, item total statistic table. So this table. Okay, I focus on Cronbach alpha if item deleted column. Focus on this one. Okay, I look for the item with highest Cronbach alpha if item deleted value. So in this case, the highest value is 0.776. Yes, this is the highest. Okay, this is the highest. Okay, which is item number 2. If I'm not mistaken, item number 2. In the past 12 months, did you do any educative campaign? Okay, so then I try to delete this item. So then I redo my analysis. Okay. I omit the second item, PB2. Then I click OK. See, the original Cronbach alpha of 0.73. Now, this is original, tadi with the 8 item. This is the original with 8 item. But after I omit B2, which is item number 2, I omit 1 item in the second analysis. The new Cronbach alpha increased to 0.776. So, lagi tinggi. Okay. So tapi kita the final item is only 7 lah. 7. So we omit 1. We delete 1 item. Faham Macam mana nak buat Faham Macam mana nak buat macam mana nak baca. Boleh? Okay. Okay. Okay dah tu. Okay. Senyap tu tanda. Senyap tanda. Tenang je. Okay. Done. Okay, this is the APA reporting. I skip lah this one sebab kita bukan nak buat instrumen pun. Okay, the next one is split half. Split half ni kita bahagi 2. Itu sahaja. Okay, we use when number of item is large. Okay, and it is possible to create 2 half of the set of the test that are designed to measure the same thing. For example, to measure one variable in your study, you have around 50 items, 50 item. Okay, we can use Spearman-Brown coefficient. Okay, if your item consists of equal length, for example 50, you all ada 50 soalan, so bila kita divide into 2, 20, 25, 25. Okay, so both half have equal number of origin. And then kalau unequal length, the unequal number of items in each battery or in each group. Dia ada 2 possibility. So dia punya calculation pun akan berbeza. Tapi tak apalah, ni kita tak pakai sangat pun. Okay. Ini saya tunjuk je lah possible untuk buat split half. Okay. Okay, and then inter-rater reliability. Dia ada lagi satu. Okay, inter-rater reliability. It measures the homogeneity across raters who are performing measurement. Raters must be blinded and randomly assigned. Okay, for continuous data, consensus is measured by correlation between the 2 reviewers. Ni contohnya siapa yang tolong tikkan soalan tu. Dia bukan responden tapi the researcher tu. Okay, for categorical data, correlation we can use Spearman-Rowe. Okay, ni dia punya assumption. Tapi biasanya kita jarang guna inter-rater ni. Jarang. Ini saya skip lah Okay, any question related to reliability? Any question? Any questions so far? Reliability? Tak ada soalan? Okay.
Doktor,
Yes.
reliability test tu sebelum kita collect data kita kena run lah. Based on the questionnaire that we prepared.
Okay, both reliability data and validity ni, for reliability ni we provide the output after we conduct the pilot study. Maksudnya we already choose our instrument measuring each variable. Okay, we compile them, we do the kita start with data validity dulu, data validation dulu. Instrument validation, data validity pula. Instrument validation dulu. Sebenarnya instrument validation dulu, only then we proceed with reliability. Okay, data validity ni saya baru nak discuss. Tapi for the reliability, okay, we do it after we conduct the pilot study. Pilot study is a small study that we conduct among respondents with similar characteristic with the actual study, with the respondent in actual study, but in terms of the sample, it is ranging from 10 to 30 for quantitative. Sample study is a small scale study that we conduct before the actual study. Okay, the respondent for pilot study should share similar characteristic as the respondent in actual study. Karakteristik kena sama. Okay. The number of sample in pilot study can range from 10 to 30 respondents only. Boleh faham pilot study. Okay. Lagi ada soalan berkenaan reliability? Tak ada dah Tak ada dah. Okay. So next one is validity. Okay, so validity ni, so a study is valid if it measures actually if it measures actually measure what they claim to. Meaning that your instrument measure what it is supposed to measure. Kita nak measure, kita nak ukur 4 segi, then make sure instrumen kita mengukur 4 segi. If we want to measure Syahirah, then our instrument should reflect Syahirah. It shouldn't reflect Hafizah. Maksudnya instrumen yang kita pilih kena ukur apa yang sepatutnya dia ukur. Dia tak boleh mengukur benda lain. Okay. So in terms of statistic, the Nunali define validity as the degree to which a measure is free of random and systematic error. Peninglah sikit nak faham. Okay, tapi kita faham senang, bahasa senang. Validity, okay, the instrument measure what it is supposed to measure. Instrumen tersebut mengukur apa yang sepatutnya dia ukur. Itu sahaja. Okay, so there are few types of validity. There are the phase validity, which is the lowest level of validity. Okay, which is can be done by you as a novice researcher. The second one, content validity, mostly conducted by expert. Criterion validity pun conducted by expert and construct validity pun conducted by expert. Biasanya phase validity sahaja you all boleh buat. Tak semua validity ni semestinya wajib dilakukan oleh expert. Okay, so dia ada 4 phase, content, criterion, construct. Okay, phase validity ni kesahan muka. Okay. So we test the validity when we develop new instrument. So it is compulsory to provide the information related to validity when you develop a new instrument. Or you should provide the reliability proof, okay, when you use established instruments to new population. So based on these two statements, what we can conclude, anytime that you conduct a study, you need to provide the proof of your instrument validity. Kena ada. Yang instrumen kita ni valid. Okay. So beza dengan reliability tadi, validity kalau target A ni contohnya it's poor validity but good reliability. In terms of consistency, kita tengok bullet ni memang consistent. It locates at one place. It consistent. Okay, but it is poor validity. Sebab dia valid sebenarnya bila dia jatuh, bullet ni jatuh kat tengah-tengah. Okay, itu baru valid. Kalau target B, okay, it's poor validity and poor reliability. The result is not consistent, and then in terms of the accuracy pun dia tak accurate, jauh. Okay, the one that we want is the target C. Okay, which is it is located at the middle. Okay, and then the score or the bullet ni memang betul-betul letak semuanya kat tengah. Okay, it is consistent and then it is accurate. This is the instrument that we want, which is referring to target C. Dia ukur apa yang patut diukur and then it is consistent. So that's why based on the earlier statement, the instrument that is reliable not necessarily valid. But a valid instrument confirmed to be reliable. Itu dia punya ni Okay, first one, phase validity. Apa dah kita ni? 7:57 boleh lagi. Kita stop at 5 minit boleh? 8-5 minit
Boleh.
Okay.
Boleh.
Cepat. Okay. First one, phase validity. So phase validity ni kesahan muka. Kesahan muka. Nampaklah kesahan muka tu yang paling superficial. Okay, so it is referring to the degree to which an instrument appears to be an appropriate measure for obtaining the desired information. Maksudnya, bila kita sekali tengok dia je, kita tengok je dia. Oh, instrumen ni boleh ni ukur ni. Itu dah phase validity. Phase validity ni senang je. Kita tengok je kat dia, kita rasa, oh, ini ukur ni apa yang kita nak ukur. Okay, so particularly from the perspective of a potential respondent. Kita tengok je, when you look at the list of items, you think that it is measuring the particular variable. Itu phase validity. Okay, so we can conduct the phase validity according to two methods. First, cursory review of items by untrained judges. Itu sebab tu saya kata face validity ni you all pun boleh buat. Anybody can do it. Either you as a novice researcher, your neighbor, your colleague, your friends, anybody, untrained judges. Okay, bukan saya cakap ni Fink and Litwi ni. Saya ulang je. Saya letak kat situ reference tu. Okay. Ataupun it also can be conducted by expert review the questionnaire. Okay. You bagi the questionnaire to your supervisor or the expert in your area. Okay, and then you consider the idea or the feedback given by the expert. Okay, dua cara. Okay, so face validity ni, does the measure look like it is measuring what it is supposed to measure? For example, instrument to measure performance, one of the item asks respondent to indicate their opinion at work. For example, kita ada satu instrumen ni for example. Okay, we want to measure job performance, Okay, so one of the item that we expect to be included in the item, one of the item we expect to be included in the instrument is the one that indicate their opinion at workplace. Okay, for example, my performance in my current job is excellent. Kan? Dari maksudnya memang dia reflect lah job performance. Second, I am very satisfied with my performance in my current job. I am very happy with my performance in my current job. I am proud of my performance in my current job. I contribute a lot to my current organization in terms of job performance, and I am high performing member of my current organization. So bila kita based on these 6 items, so on each phase, these items appear to relate directly to job performance. So you may conclude that this item on face validity met the criteria of job performance. But before you are able to establish the validity ni, make sure you already develop your operational definition as what we discussed in earlier lecture. Kena develop dulu kita punya definisi operasi. How to develop definition, operational definition based on previous literature. Kita develop. Kita punya conceptual. We have our conceptual definition on each variable. We develop our operational definition. Then we search for the items. Next step, we compare the elements stated in operational definition against the list of items in the instrument. Barulah kita boleh tentukan sama ada the instrument met the face validity or not. Faham Macam mana kita nak menentukan yang instrumen tu secara kesahan mukanya menepati, kita bandingkan item ni dengan definisi operasi yang telah kita bangunkan untuk that particular construct ataupun variable. Faham Faham? Tak faham? Faham? Okey, saya bagi nampak sikit Nak bagi nampak lebih sikit. Okey. Saya rasa saya tak share lagi kod dengan you all. Hold on I'll share you with everyone this template supaya you all nampak. Ini this is going to be our final session for today. Hold on Stop share. Okay, the most easiest technique or method that you can use to determine your face validity is by using Excel. Ni yang saya selalu buat dengan student saya. Okay, for example, this is the title. So this is the variable that you want to measure, job satisfaction. So you indicate the conceptual definition and then you come up with your operational definition. Okay, This is your operational definition, which is job satisfaction is a pleasurable or positive emotional felt by the employees. Dia adalah pleasurable or positive emotional feeling, feeling. Ini dia punya two important criteria that should be included when you want to performance. Dua device tu. Siapa guna dua device tu?
Ramzi cemerlang lah tu, dia ada record apa.
Ramzi, jangan ambil banyak sangat ilmu saya, nanti habis ilmu saya. Okay?
Tak.
Okay, so this is the two criteria. Kalau kita maksudnya in our operational definition, we set the boundary, what we want to measure and what we don't want to measure in our study. Kita set boundary sebenarnya bila kita when we develop our operational definition. So in this case, the student or the researcher only want to include a pleasurable or positive emotional feeling to measure job satisfaction. Ini saja yang dia nak. So we go through the instrument. Are you satisfied with your work? Okay, so this one, keyword satisfied, feeling. Are you satisfied with your work condition? This one is work in overall. This one work condition. Okay, are you satisfied with your work climate? Work culture? Are you satisfied with the amount paid by your company? Are you satisfied with company policies? Are you satisfied with recognition you get for the work you do? Are you satisfied with the way your boss delegates works to others? Are you satisfied with the abilities and skills you gain? Are you satisfied with the results of the work you do? Are you satisfied with the physical surroundings where you work? So kalau kita tengok ni semua kena emotional. Feeling. So on its face, bila kita bandingkan this one, when we compare the operational definition against the individual items, okay, if in your opinion, you think that these individual items reflect the key element in your operational definition, so then you can conclude that on its face, the items are valid or the instrument is valid. Faham Ni je kita bandingkan.
Doktor, siapa yang nak, kita sendiri ke researcher?
That's why saya cakap
yang nak compare.
That's why saya cakap tadi. Okay, untuk face validity.
Yang 1 and 2 tadi tu?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Possible to be accomplished either by novice researcher or anybody, your neighbor, your mother, your father, or expert. Itu baru face validity.
Okay, clear Doktor, clear.
So macam mana you nak report? How you can report? So based on your searching through the Google Scholar while looking for the instrument, you compare the instrument that you found against your operational definition. Based on your novice research, the view of you as a novice researcher, on its surface or on its face, it looks like it measure what it is supposed to measure. So therefore, it met the criteria of face validity. Itu macam mana kita nak report face validity dalam bab 3. Ayat dia macam tu. Tapi ini adalah detail works lah lagi. So ni instrumen, maksudnya nak nampak lagi ni, dia kata come up with the categorization, ni proses dia technical lagi lah. Okay, identify the item direction, the reliability value from the original source. Ni dia indicate lah this one sebab kita nak make sure yang the instrument that we choose are from the one with quality. Yang kita pilih tu adalah yang paling berkualiti. Reliability dia ni from the previous study. Okay, the reliability value reported here from previous study. From the study that use similar instrument. So kita letak je kat sini. Ni bukan daripada pilot kita lagi Okay, and then we identify the item direction. Item direction faham tak? Apa maksud item direction ni? Tak faham? What does it mean by item direction? Okay, so item direction saya pilih, okay, this one lah. Okay, work pressure. Okay, work pressure is negative or positive attributes?
Positive. Negative.
Positive or negative? Work pressure. Saya tak pasti, dia depends. Some may perceive it as a negative, some may perceive it as a positive. So negative or positive? Dia boleh jadi, kalau orang setengah orang dia kata positif sebab bila ada workload pressure, so betul lah tu, workload pressure, tekanan lebihan kerja. Negatif lah tak? Negatif. So in overall, this is the negative attributes. Okay. So in terms of item, we need to look for the item that has same direction with the DV. Maksud dia, example, the first item, I often feel stressed at work. This is negative or positive? It is
Negative.
It is a negative statement, but positive for workload pressure, correct?
Betul.
So it is positive. Dia negative, meaning that we want to identify the item direction because we want to identify if there is any items that are in the direction that is against the attribute, because we want to make sure that all items are in similar direction. Kita tak nak ada yang positif, ada yang negatif. So nanti dia punya result tu kita nak negatif ke positif. Kita nak identify. Sebab nanti kita nak buat reverse coding. Reverse code, terbalikkan coding dia. Ada tak negatif item dalam ni? Tak ada. Semua positif, tak ada. For example ni. Role conflict ni, contoh. Okay. Role conflict, payah. This one. Okay. Okay, good relationship with co-worker. So for example, one of the item, I always have an argument with my colleague. So it is a negative item. Betul tak? I often have arguments with my colleague. It is a negative item. But if let's say the variable here is close relationship with co-worker, so meaning that we need to reverse code the item. Macam mana nak reverse code? We continue next week. Okay? So any questions so far before we stop today? So far so good? Tak stres sangat kan?
So far so good.
So far, so good.
Nampaklah cahaya untuk yang sebab tengah prepare bab 3 tu kan doktor kan. So ni perkara-perkara yang ada dekat dalam tu. Sebab kami tak belajar lagi statistik.
Betul.
So it helps lah.
Right.
Why you all tak belajar statistik supposedly because it is research method for instrument development. Part of it you will learn in statistics, you will learn on data analysis. Part of the instrument development you will learn. You can learn in data analysis and interpretation. Pengajaran saya juga. Okay, tapi that one kelas elective lah. It is not compulsory. Okay, untuk further analysis regarding instrument. Okay, so with that, I thought we postpone our session. Okay, next soalan tak?
Boleh tanya sekarang ke tak, Dr. Normi? I just wonder for the final exam, the format for final exam. Too early to ask? Kalau if too early to ask, we will discuss.
It's not.
Also the date, Doctor.
Date pun tak set lagi.
It's not too early.
Ada semangat nak sambung soalan.
It's not too early to discuss and it's not too early to ask. I am too late to prepare the question. Saya belum lagi prepare soalan. But in my mind right now, saya adalah sedikit illustration regarding the final exam. It's going to be in two format lah. One is MCQ, then another section will be the subjective lah. Dua section tu. Tapi InsyaAllah saya cuba finalize this weekend. By next week I can share with everybody regarding our format. By next week. Tapi kalau
Thank you, Dr. Normi.
kalau boleh, if next week we completed on the instrumentation ni, okay, for instrumentation, if let's say we managed to complete the instrumentation for qual and quanti, next other weeks going to be minggu depan, minggu 13 kan? Minggu depan, minggu 13 kan? Week 13, right? Next week.
Yes, next week 13.
And then perhaps on week 14, you should submit your chapter 1 to 3 for my review. I will review all 26 of you untuk that week. And then the final submission of the proposal is during our final exam day, final exam day. Boleh?
Boleh.
Boleh.
Boleh,
Doctor, we
boleh.
share the Turnitin ID, right?
Yes, I will share the Turnitin ID. Sebab Helwa selalu ingatkan saya. Okay. Turnitin ID. I will share in our group.
Doktor, final exam date sebab dah nak kena susun dengan subjek lain.
Final exam date saya tak ada lagi date sebenarnya. Saya tak ada lagi date. Tapi basically 13, 14 minggu study week, 1 minggu. Then kau nak bila? Is it okay on 18? 18 tak boleh.
Doktor bagi berapa lama doktor untuk exam tu?
Macam nak minta lama je ni.
So boleh susun lah kalau dia redundant dengan subjek lain. So kalau dia punya
Dia
perancangan.
bukan one day exam kan doktor kan?
Thinking either I want to make it take home ataupun 1 day exam or 3 hours ke. I'm still thinking, considering. Sebab it will
48 hours, Doctor.
48 hours to take.
Under 14 to 15 July.
14 to 15
I propose to date lah.
14 to 15.
Yes.
14 to 15 Ni
Take home exam.
Yes doktor, 48 hours exam.
48.
Doktor 15 to 16 lah. Sebab clash dengan paper lain.
15 to 16. 15 to 16.
Ada exam lain.
15 to 16 should be okay.
15 to 16 15 to 16.
Tapi weekend lah.
I okay je 15 to 16. Boleh sebab saya kalau let's say kita buat Google kan okay je 15 to 16.
Doktor, kalau 16, 17 sebab 14, 15 tu ada paper ethics.
16 to 17 pula. Bila nak?
Lemak weekend lah.
17 maybe leadership.
17 leadership.
17 maybe leadership.
Alah.
Doctor and my dear friend, if I may suggest, the date nanti memang akan ada pertindihan sebabnya nak to accommodate all of us is very difficult for Dr. Nomi. But then if Dr. Nomi dah bagi mercy kalau take home exam, I think we can agree to any date and any time that provided by Dr. Nomi lah. Tapi macam it's just my 2 cents and my humble point of view. It's just that sebab nanti akan ada subjek lain, nanti memang akan ada clash juga dengan tarikh-tarikh exam ni. Have experienced that from the previous semester. So it's very difficult to accommodate everyone.
Kita set.
Can we
Okay,
discuss it in the group later, Helwa? Maybe we can take consensus from the group.
Tapi first week kan lah doktor kan, the idea is the exam will be in the first week of final exam punya week kan?
Final exam first week final exam is on 10 lah, right? Kan? Tapi
14.
On the 10 tu dah Raya Haji tu.
kan?
14 tu doktor start lah sebab Isnin tu raya.
Kalau macam tu
Start 12 doktor.
suggestion 15 to 16 tadi tu okay lah kot doktor.
15 to 16. Okay lah, we put on 15
Boleh doktor.
15 to 16.
16.
Okay.
Walaupun bertindih, kita still ada 48 hours kan.
Boleh.
Siapa cakap nak 48 hours? Saya tak cakap lagi. Saya tak cakap lagi. Alah ya.
Kalau one day pun that range tu boleh 14 ke 14.
Kita set on 15 to 16 lah, kita set dulu sebab saya belum finalize lagi the final because I need to consider if let's say 48 hours so then I need to we need to expect that there are certain level of difficulties lah in the question.
Dah agak dah, kalau lama dia makin susah.
Sikit, dia tak boleh lah kan. Okay, kita expect 15 to 16. Okay, we set on these 2 dates lah. Okay, if let's say on 15 tu, then I will share the questionnaire. Sorry, the question at least on at 8 AM. Okay, 8 AM kalau contoh nak. Okay, banyak-banyakkan solat ajat dan solat semoga dipermudahkan. Moga saya pun
Ya, kita akan
Amin.
berdoa soalan yang
Dr. Nomi
mudah
kan
dan semua orang
baik.
ingin.
Doktor.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much, guys. InsyaAllah we will see each other again next week. So take care. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Doktor. Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam.
Terima kasih.